And a lot of people don't feel that same way at all. They're content with pulling for characters, spending money on characters, C6ing characters, and have no intention of really using that character in the hardest content as possible, and really taking that character to the next level. And I get that some people aren't there yet and they have plans to do that later, but I never see that change in people, When it comes to the events, this could be just a Hoyoverse problem, but when it comes to the events, I find that they don't go out of their way to kind of make the events difficult in a way where, how do I say this? They don't make the events difficult in a way where you have to pull for a new character, or you want a different element character, or you'd want a character who could heal, They make the events kind of friendly so that anybody can do them with whatever they have, instead of making them challenging in a way where, you're going to feel like, oh, I wish I had that. Let me pull for this character. Let me pull for this 4-star. And I guess Hoyoverse is on a teeter-totter. They're on like a balance of trying to make this game challenging, but at the same time making it so that you don't have to challenge yourself at all. Like, to me, the way that Genshin or most gacha games work is that they have their events and you have to use what you've built to overcome the events. But a lot of the events in Genshin itself aren't even combat events. So it's like a combat-oriented game. All the characters do. The only reason you'd pull a character is either to just look at them or to use them in different types of teams, create team comps, and use them to overcome whatever challenges in front of you. But when you look at the events themselves, a lot of them, like right now we have a Klee event with this bombs, and none of that is character specific at all. We have a whole new region with these underwater fights, and none of the fights have anything to do with the character's strength at all. Like, you have they take whatever character you're using and take all of their skills away, except for Dea, and the only thing you can do is use this underwater skills themselves. And I find that kind of puts Genshin in a box, right? In this box of, you don't really need to pull for anything. You don't need anything in Genshin. And that doesn't really sit well with me. Over watching how this game works and playing through it and doing all that stuff, I find that you don't really need anything in this game to get to the upper echelon. And so that requirement of pulling for things, people just do because they want to. And that kind of creates an unhealthy thing where people feel like, oh, I want this character because this character is strong. You pull for this character because he's strong, but you don't even use him in the highest end of Abyss. So why do you want him so badly? Why would I pull for Neuvillette if the character that I have can clear the Abyss just fine? Genshin does a poor job of giving you any reason to pull for a character outside of, I just want that character, instead of, this character will help me do this, Because overall, any character can do whatever they want. So it's just kind of a middle ground in Genshin where people are pulling for things and people have these arguments about, like, should I pull for this? Should I not pull for that? But they don't, like, the real question is, what are you going to do with that character you pulled? Because if your plan is to just, pull for any character who the community says is strong, but you don't even have a chance, you're not even going to use them at their greatest strength, then what's really the point? You can pull for a character just because you like them. I have characters that I've pulled that I didn't even like. Like, as an example, I pulled for Ganyu by accident. I just pulled on the banner just because all my friends were pulling, and I got Ganyu, 10 pulls after my pity, and I never use her. And so that's one case in which you'd have characters you never use. But I find that the Genshin community in general is just so displaced in what they want. So many people are asking for new events, new combat events. What I would want is a combat event to always be running, and not even just an event, like something that outside of the Spiral Abyss that's combat oriented, that we can always be running, maybe with co-op, fighting fighting groups of waves of enemies as a team, trying to see how deep we can get, kind of like a horde type thing or a firefight type fight, you know, and coming up with strategies to fight together, new things like that. When we get stuff like TCG updates, I never see anybody talking about Genshin TCG. It's something that I find is so lost from MiHoYo. They're creating things they're creating whole free events, whole free updates with stuff that doesn't have anything to do with any reason why you'd want to pull for somebody. One thing that I would say about the TCG is they should make it so once you get your friendship level to a certain level with a character, that's when you unlock their card, right? You have to have that character to unlock to be able to play them in TCG. But no, they give you all the cards for free. And sure, that could be a good thing if you just wanted to play the TCG, but I don't really find a lot of people want to just do the TCG. There are other parts of it. So they have an issue incorporating all of the needs of all the players into one. And if you are just an overworld player, what is the purpose of you pulling for constellations on a character other than just wanting them? You know, we tell people, oh, this is how you build, this is how you do that, but they actually just watch it just because they like seeing a character fight golems in the overworld. And I find that that's just such a waste. And this is a weird thing to be talking about because, you know, people are free to do whatever they want, but I'm just questioning, why is it that you want these relationships with this character that you're not going to take to the fullest? Like, I'd respect you a lot more if you're like, you know what, I'm going to C6 Sino, but I'm going to only C6 him over time. I'm going to save all the Primo Gems I can just to get him because he's my favorite character. I want to get him C6, use him in the overworld. You know, if you're a Spiral Abyss only player and that's all you do, what shouldn't you want to do all the story events, do all that stuff so you can get as much Primos as possible? And if you're going to do all that stuff anyway, don't you want to enjoy it? Like, why are you making it so that, oh, talking about how this stuff is useless? And I get it. I get wanting a skip button, but why are you acting like there's not story there for you to enjoy yourself along the road? And I think that there's like kind of a lost in translation thing there where people are so focused on these combat events that aren't coming, so you just hyper focus on the Spiral Abyss. And I feel like that is an issue amongst itself. You know, the Spiral Abyss is cool, but it's not the only game mode, and that's one of the things that I find Genshin lacks the most in. There should be more to do than just the Spiral Abyss in terms of combat. There should always be some type of firefight, some type of ways that you can test your team's longevity, test different comps, do like a boss rush. There should always be this type of event running in the background that's not just Spiral Abyss, to give you something else to do, something else to fight, you know, some other type of challenge. And one thing that I really liked about this 4.1, 4.0 Fontaine patches, they've added like these boss monsters that you can fight, and they have just a really high amount of health. And there's certain differences about them. Like there was the water one, so you could bring hydro enemies, so you'd have to come up with a different comp. And you know, I find that those things are more interesting and just fun in general. So basically, the end of my thought is, I feel like Genshin should do a more job of bringing those players who aren't necessarily Spiral Abyss players, bringing them more into combat and giving them more of an incentive to pull. And it should also give, you know, those Spiral Abyss players something else to do that's not just fighting in the Spiral Abyss, something that gets them more involved with other people's, you know, ways of viewing. There have been certain events where they are battle events, and you can I don't remember what they're called. Like they always have that big blue door, and you can go in there and fight enemies and fight the waves. I find that those events are a lot of fun too, and I like those ones a lot. So I feel like they should do that more often, have those kind of running every 2 weeks. They reset, and not have them just sitting there as, you know, events that we get once, like for 2 weeks out of one patch. They should always be running, give you something always to fight against. Hoyoverse should really focus on making the battle events permanent, so that you can have more permanent stuff to do, and they should give us more co-op battle events so we can have different fights to do with friends and stuff like that. Even before, where they added the match system, so it doesn't have to be necessarily your friends. You can just go in and queue up with random people, maybe start talking to them, typing to them, make a new friend, and that could be somebody you play Genshin with often. You guys can do these events every 2 weeks. You guys can message each other, that type of thing. I just feel like Genshin as a whole is kind of missing the mark in terms of getting their players to become, more into the game in all aspects. They keep one side content with events that they don't really have to think, events that are just easy to do, non-battle events, no reason to pull the weapon banner, no reason to do anything that kind of pushes your team building thoughts. They just keep it really simple, and I find that that's kind of limiting a lot of the Genshin player base, and I feel like the player base could use a shaking up. Do stuff. Genshin's one of the only games that I know that after 3 years they haven't done anything to necessarily shake the battle system. I guess they've added new elements, but it's not really like different from what we have been doing before. It's still it's still the same fight. They haven't done anything that's like increased the level cap, increased the talent cap to get your talents to a higher damage so that you can be able to fight enemies or come up with a new reach the higher damage peaks. They haven't done stuff like that. They haven't reworked characters fully. Like, a lot of characters don't necessarily work as intended. Like Xinyan, as an example, she's not somebody who I would think it's easy to complete floor 12 of the Abyss with, but I definitely think it's possible. So I would like to see more of that from Genshin, just kind of ways that they can shake up the whole meta. And I would love for them to put more kind of, let's call it, difficult events inside the maps themselves to make people at least think, oh, I should level up this part of my character. I should focus on these kind of talents so that when I go into these overworld fights, I'm not having such a rough time. But that's all my thoughts on this. Let me know what you guys think. Like, subscribe. Let me know you're alive in the comment section down below. This has been Clutch, and I'm out.